Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I didn't move, just listened. My name's Greg Foster. I was 47, a small business owner with a decent lawn care operation out in northern Jersey. Nothing fancy, 3 trucks, a trailer, couple part-time guys in the busy months. But it paid well and I liked being outside. Home was a quiet 2-story in a cul-de-sac in Denville. My wife Lisa and I had been together 14 years, married 10. She worked corporate HR, buttoned up, sharp, always in control. If you met her, you'd think she ran a Fortune 500, not just managed compliance and training for a retail chain. But she had that presence. Our life, routine, in a good way. Mornings started with her handing me a coffee while she finished getting ready, heels already on. "Here you go, my rock," she'd say with a peck on the cheek. Nights she'd curl up next to me on the couch, half watching some Netflix show, whispering how safe she felt with me. I never questioned it. I never thought I needed to, until that night. It was just past 1 in the morning. I remember because the digital clock by the bed blinked 1:04 a.m. in that soft red glow. I woke up without a reason. No noise, no nightmare. Just one of those nights where your brain taps you on the shoulder. You wake up and everything feels off. I reached over. The bed was cold beside me. Her side was empty, sheets barely rumpled. At first I figured she went downstairs to grab a drink. Or maybe the cat got out again. Nothing weird. But as I started to drift back, I heard it. Her voice, quiet, urgent. From the office down the hall. I sat up, holding my breath. The house was silent except for her, muffled behind the closed door. "I'm telling you," she said, low but clear. "He doesn't suspect anything. I'll have it handled by Monday." Handled? Something dropped in my chest like a stone. I slid my feet onto the carpet but didn't move further. Just sat there, listening, waiting. The conversation was short. I didn't catch another word. Door opened, soft footsteps back toward the bedroom. I laid back down, pretending to sleep. She slipped in under the covers without a sound, and I stared at the ceiling in the dark, heart pounding. Handled by Monday. That was the moment everything shifted. The woman I trusted, the woman I built my life with, was planning something, and I was the last to know. The next morning I made her eggs like always. Over medium, 2 slices of sourdough toast, half an avocado fanned out with a little sea salt. I did it without thinking. Part habit, part fear. Lisa came down in a pencil skirt and a silk blouse, sipping from a tumbler of something green. She smiled like nothing happened. "Smells good," she said, leaning in to kiss the back of my neck. "You spoil me." I kept my tone steady. "Somebody's gotta." She laughed and grabbed her keys. "You're the best, babe. See you tonight." Door shut. Car started. Just like that, she was gone. I sat down with my own plate, took 2 bites, then pushed it away. My stomach was in knots. My mind went back to her words. He doesn't suspect anything. I'll have it handled by Monday. Handled what? And who the hell was she talking to? I sat there, staring at the backsplash until the clock struck 8. Then I walked into the office and pulled up our bank accounts, something I hadn't done in years. Lisa handled the money. I trusted her. But the second the screen loaded, I knew something was off. The checking account was lower than I expected. Not empty, just light. I clicked through to the transactions. That's when it hit me. $700 at a spa in Miami, $1,200 at a jeweler in Denver, a $950 flight to Chicago, 2 hotel charges, something labeled consultant retainer. And those were just the past 3 weeks. I scrolled back further. The bleeding had started 3 months ago. At first it was little things, random charges I didn't question at the time. But all totaled, over 180 grand, gone. Nothing illegal, no stolen cards or bounced payments. Just drained. Slowly. Systematically. I sat back in the chair, stunned. Lisa hadn't left the tri-state in months, not that I knew of. She hadn't mentioned Miami or Denver or Chicago. And why would she be buying jewelry when I hadn't seen anything new? That night I tried to stay calm. We were sitting on the deck after dinner, wine in her hand, soft jazz playing from the speakers. Sunset bleeding orange into the trees. I cleared my throat. "Hey, quick question." She glanced over her glass. "Shoot." I noticed a few weird charges on the account. Spa in Miami? Jewelry store in Denver? She blinked once. No panic, no stumble, just a small, casual shrug. Oh, that. Work stuff. Conferences and team gifts, all tax deductible. I nodded slowly. You didn't mention traveling. She sipped her wine. Didn't think I needed to. You know how corporate gets. Half the stuff's boring anyway. Then she laughed, light, unbothered, and leaned into my shoulder like we were just talking about the weather. Babe, don't go playing detective, she whispered. Everything's fine. She kissed my cheek, refilled her glass, and started talking about some HR merger she was managing. But all I could think was this. She thought I was still the fool who never looked at statements. She thought she could lie to my face and pour another glass of wine like nothing mattered. And worst of all, she didn't even bother to cover her tracks. 2 nights later, we had pasta for dinner. Lisa made it herself. Fresh basil, cherry tomatoes, the whole bit. She was in a good mood, humming along to some Norah Jones track while I set the table. We sat across from each other, clinking glasses, her eyes bright like we were newlyweds again. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed everything was normal. After dinner, she stretched and yawned. I think I'm going to soak in the tub, she said, gathering her wine glass. Long week. I nodded, heart thumping in my chest. You deserve it. She smiled and left her phone on the table, right next to her cloth napkin. That never happened. Lisa's phone was practically glued to her hand. Purse, pocket, bra if she had to. I waited until I heard the water running upstairs, then gave it another 30 seconds. I picked it up. No password. Part of me hoped I'd find nothing. Just texts from coworkers and dumb memes from that Pilates group chat she never shut up about. But I scrolled anyway. Quiet, quick. Just enough to follow my gut. One number stood out. No name, just a blank contact photo and a string of messages. Make sure the papers are airtight. He can't see them until after the move. Wrap it up before he starts asking questions. Send him the Carver files. He won't know what hit him. I read the thread 3 times. There were no jokes, no emojis, no harmless banter. These weren't flirty messages from some side guy. This was planning. Cold. Tactical. They weren't just talking about me. They were planning something around me. My mouth went dry. I backed out of the thread and searched for Carver. The name popped up in her email. A few threads exchanged back and forth, all vague, all using phrases like documentation strategy, timelines, and final push. It was all corporate enough to look clean. But with the messages, my gut told me otherwise. I checked the file attachments, password-protected PDFs, locked folders. I didn't try to open them. I didn't take screenshots. I just put the phone back where I found it. Then I went outside, lit a cigarette, even though I hadn't smoked in 10 years, and paced the edge of the backyard until my fingers stopped shaking. So it wasn't an affair. That would have been easy, expected, fixable even in a messy sort of way. This was worse. This was someone working around me, scheming, building a plan that ended with me blindsided. Send him the Carver files. Whatever those were, I was him, and they didn't think I'd see it coming. Lisa had been careful, but not careful enough. She thought I was still asleep, still dumb, still the husband who brought her eggs and kissed her goodbye. But now I knew. And now, I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to confront her. Because the second I put that phone down, I realized something bigger. I had a bigger game to play, and it was just getting started. The next morning, I didn't kiss her goodbye. Lisa barely noticed. She was brushing mascara in the mirror, phone tucked under her chin, giving someone orders about onboarding schedules. I grabbed my thermos, nodded, and slipped out without a word. I drove straight to Bloomfield, to a small brick office above a deli that hadn't changed its menu since 1982. That's where Danny worked. Danny and I had been tight since high school. Football, late-night beers in college, double dates when we still thought forever was easy. He'd gone on to get his CPA and now specialized in asset protection and divorce shielding. We kept in touch over the years, mostly holiday texts and the occasional tailgate. But when I called that morning and said, "I need to talk," now, he didn't hesitate. I laid it all out in his office, the weird charges, the hidden texts, the Carver files. Danny didn't even blink. "We need to shield everything," he said. "What does that mean?" It means, starting today, you're not just a guy with a lawn care business and a mortgage. You're a holding company with limited liability and a firewall made of legal concrete. I blinked. Okay. He got to work immediately. We formed a new LLC under my name, not Greg Foster Landscaping, but a fresh name with 0 links to our old accounts. The business checking account was closed and reopened under the new entity. My retirement accounts were moved into protected trusts. The house title? Quietly shifted into the LLC through a series of steps I barely understood but signed off on. By the time Friday rolled around, every piece of my life was sitting behind a wall Lisa didn't even know existed. I didn't sleep much that week. I kept thinking about the Carver files, about the way she smiled while sipping wine and lying to my face. But every night I reminded myself, she'd made the first move. Now it was my turn. Each morning I'd get up like nothing had changed. Lisa would hand me coffee, kiss my cheek, and tell me about her meetings. I might need to travel next month, she said one morning, stirring her chia bowl. Denver again. Sounds important, I said. She smiled like I was still in the palm of her hand. She had no idea. Every signature I made that week, every email I confirmed with Danny, every time I double-checked a wire transfer, it was all for one reason. To make sure when she tried to pull the rug out from under me, she'd find the floor bolted shut. On Saturday, Danny called. She doesn't have access to a single asset anymore, he said. Not the business, not the house, not even your SEP IRA. Everything's locked behind the LLC or in your name only. If she tries anything, it'll bounce off like rubber on steel. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Thanks, man. You still sleeping next to her? Every night. Jesus, Greg. I need to know what she's planning. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, she had the first move, but you just put the last lock on the vault. I hung up and stared out the window for a long time. Lisa had no idea what I'd done. She still thought I was just the guy grilling burgers on Sundays, fixing mower blades in the garage and letting her run the books. But not anymore. She was planning to break me. What she didn't know was, I'd already changed the locks. Friday night she came home dressed like she was headed to a gala, lipstick sharp, heels clicking across the tile, holding a slim leather folder in her hand. Let's talk, she said, voice smooth like she was about to walk me through a new benefits package. She sat down at the kitchen island and slid the folder toward me. I had a lawyer draft these. Clean, professional. We've just grown apart, Greg. It's time. I opened the folder. Divorce papers. She had filled everything in already. Lists of shared assets, division proposals, typed lines about irreconcilable differences and mutual respect. It read like a breakup memo from HR. Clinical. Detached. I stared at the first page, then looked up at her. This is what you've been planning. She didn't flinch. Greg, don't make this harder than it has to be. You'll keep the business, obviously. We can sell the house, split the proceeds. You'll land on your feet. You're resilient like that. I leaned back in my chair. Resilient. Like she was tossing me a compliment on the way out the door. I closed the folder and slid it back across the counter. Before we go any further, I said, I should tell you something. She raised an eyebrow. I moved everything. Her smile faded. What? The house, the business, the retirement accounts, all of it. They're under a new LLC, locked tight. You won't get a dime. For a second, her face went completely blank. Then it paled. You can't do that, she said, voice rising just slightly. I already did. She stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. She tried to pull herself together, smoothing her skirt, tilting her chin like she still had the upper hand. Then I guess I'll see you in court. I nodded. Guess you will. She grabbed her folder and stalked toward the hallway. But before she disappeared, she stopped, turned slightly, and said over her shoulder, I gave you the easy version. You'll wish you signed it. I didn't say a word. I just watched her heels vanish up the stairs like she was still in charge of something. But she wasn't. She walked into this kitchen thinking she held the cards, that I'd be blindsided, desperate to negotiate, maybe even beg. She thought I was still asleep, still dumb, still the man she could wrap around a kiss and a fake apology. But I wasn't that man anymore. Not after the phone, not after the withdrawals, not after Carver. I had already burned the bridge she thought she was pushing me off. That night, I poured myself a bourbon and sat outside on the back steps, staring up at the dark sky, letting the silence settle around me. She wanted a war of paperwork? She was going to get one. But this time, I wasn't the one walking in blind. Because she might have written the first draft, but I was already holding the red pen. 3 days later, something felt off at the shop. My crew, guys who'd worked for me for years, kept their heads down more than usual. Barely made eye contact, no jokes, no small talk. My foreman, Luis, barely nodded when I passed by. Midday, Carla, my office manager, knocked on the break room door with something in her hand. "You're going to want to see this," she said. She set a stack of printed pages on the table. It was a thread, a long one, from some anonymous forum that catered to local business gossip. Title: Jersey Landscaper Hiding Funds to Screw Over Wife During Divorce. I felt my stomach tighten as I flipped through. They named me directly, claimed I embezzled money from my own company, said I'd moved funds illegally, that I was hiding assets in offshore accounts. Even said I had abandoned Lisa after cheating on her, like I was the one running around. They posted fake screenshots, pictures of bank statements that looked doctored, and one blurry photo of me in the parking lot looking tired as hell with the caption, "Does this man look trustworthy?" It was brutal. "What the hell is this?" I asked. Carla just gave me a look. "Greg, it's everywhere. A couple clients have already called to cancel." I sat down hard in the chair. Lisa. It had to be. She was losing the legal game, so now she was playing dirty, turning the spotlight on me, dragging my name through the mud. I took a breath, nodded once, and pulled out my phone. Dialed Danny. He picked up on the second ring. "You okay?" "She just hit back," I said. "Anonymous posts, full smear campaign, clients are pulling out." He didn't hesitate. "Get me screenshots, all of it. I'm calling in a favor." That same afternoon, Danny connected me with a litigation firm in Newark. High-powered people, not cheap, but I didn't care. Then he added one more thing. "I've got a reputation guy, quiet, fast, and ruthless." By sundown, I had a cease and desist drafted and ready to go. The lawyer filed for preliminary discovery, meaning we'd start the process of unmasking the anonymous poster. They also began drafting a defamation suit in case this escalated further. And it would. Because Lisa had crossed a line. She wasn't just trying to take my money now. She was trying to poison everything I'd built. The business, the team, the reputation I'd spent 20 years earning. All because I'd outplayed her. I stood in the middle of the shop that night, staring at the lifted mowers, the tools lined up neatly on the back wall, the framed Best of Denville Small Business certificate on the corkboard. This place had been my second home since I was in my 20s. And now, thanks to her, it was bleeding. But I wasn't folding. I sent Carla home with a bonus and told the guys to clock out early. Then I stayed late, cleaning the shop by hand like I used to in the early days, wiping grease from the counters, taking out trash, checking every bolt on the tool racks. Because this business, my name, wasn't going down on her terms. She was done playing fair. So was I. But the difference was, I played smarter, and I played with receipts. The next week, I got the call. Danny told me to come into his office. Said he didn't want to go over it on the phone. That usually meant bad news. When I walked in, he didn't even greet me with his usual wisecracks, just pointed at the chair across from his desk and slid a manila folder toward me. "She filed suit," he said. I nodded slowly. Knew it was coming. "She's accusing you of fraud, says you moved marital funds illegally, claims you manipulated business assets and concealed income." I stared at the folder without touching it. "Okay," I said. "What's the punchline?" Danny flipped the folder open and tapped the top document with his pen. "She filed it with a guy named Vincent Carver." I blinked. That name, Carver. My chest went tight. "That's the name from the texts," I said. "The ones on her phone." Danny nodded. "I ran him. He's got no legitimate business registration in New Jersey, but his name's been flagged in multiple states. Fake firms, forged contracts, shady consulting gigs that vanish overnight. He's a con artist." He flipped a few pages. The documents they filed look official. Dates, figures, itemized charts. But look here. He pointed to a line. "Wrong business registration number. And here, The earnings figures don't match any tax return you've ever submitted. He turned another page. And this is supposed to be your signature. I leaned in. It looked close, real close, but not quite right. Too clean, too controlled. I didn't sign that, I said. We know. Forensic team's already on it. Ink density, stroke analysis, metadata from the PDFs. I shook my head slowly, stunned by the audacity of it. She's trying to frame me, I muttered. She couldn't get my money, so now she's trying to burn me down. Danny didn't say anything for a beat. Then he leaned back and crossed his arms. They thought you'd roll over. They thought if they made it complicated enough, you'd cave. I looked up. How bad is it? Well, if a judge believed any of this and you didn't fight back, you'd be looking at fines, court-ordered restitution, maybe even criminal referral, but... He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a slim folder. We got lucky. He opened it and showed me a string of IP addresses. Our tech guy traced the origin of the files. Guess where they were created? I already knew. Carver's email server. Bingo. The forensic metadata ties the documents straight to his business account. Timestamps, upload logs. We even got a device ID. He built the whole thing on a laptop that's tied to 3 other known fraud cases. I exhaled slowly, relief washing over me in pieces. Do we have enough? Danny nodded. We have more than enough. We're filing a motion to dismiss, plus a counterclaim for malicious prosecution and document forgery. We're naming Carver directly too. Once the court sees this, her case collapses. I sat there, quiet for a moment. Then I laughed, a dry, bitter thing that caught me by surprise. This isn't a divorce, I said. It's war. Danny leaned forward. Yeah, well, good news is you brought a tank. I stood and shook his hand. My mind was already moving. Lisa, Carver, the courtroom, the fallout. She thought she'd drown me in paper and lies. But the thing about forged documents, they burn fast. Court was packed. Lisa sat at the plaintiff's table in a navy pantsuit, legs crossed, tapping a pen like she was waiting to give a TED talk. Her lawyer, some polished guy with gelled hair and a too-perfect tie, flipped through a binder like he thought we were all too stupid to follow along. No sign of Carver, not even a whisper. Coward didn't show. I sat beside Danny and our attorney, Jill Raines, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd torn apart more fraudulent cases than I could count. She wore a plain gray blazer and didn't say a word until the judge entered. Then it started. Lisa's attorney stood and launched into a long theatrical opening. Said I had concealed assets, manipulated LLCs, committed financial deception with intent to defraud the marital estate. He used words like egregious, unethical, and my personal favorite, predatory. Lisa didn't look at me once, but I looked at her, calm, steady, watching her try to stay composed while the lies piled higher and higher. Then Jill stood, and in under 2 hours, she dismantled their entire narrative. She started with the timeline, showed how the LLC was formed after Lisa's suspicious behavior started, brought in the business ledgers, the transfer logs, the asset documents, every piece of my countermove documented and time-stamped. Then she introduced the forensic report, a digital trail traced back to Vincent Carver's email server. Metadata from the fake documents matched files created from his known alias account. IP addresses, login times, document history, all laid out in neat little exhibits. Then came the kicker, the voice memos. Carver hadn't shown, but he'd slipped up before disappearing. Left 2 voicemail messages on Lisa's phone during a call she recorded. Messages where he casually mentioned finalizing the version Greg won't question and timing the paperwork drop after the filing. Our tech guy pulled the audio and matched it to publicly available clips from a podcast Carver was interviewed on years ago. Same voice, same guy, same scam. Lisa sat frozen in her chair. The judge asked no more than 3 questions. He barely looked at Lisa's lawyer after the second exhibit. By the time Jill presented the forged signature comparison, it was over. I find the plaintiff's claims not only unsubstantiated, the judge said, adjusting his glasses, but clearly fabricated with malicious intent. He turned to Lisa. Your petition is dismissed in full. You are denied access to any of Mr. Foster's assets, business or otherwise. Furthermore, due to the severity of these false claims, you are ordered to pay his legal fees in full. Lisa finally moved, blinked, sat back, her shoulders stiff. Her lawyer leaned in to whisper something, but she just stared straight ahead like her body had checked out. Outside the courtroom, she caught me by the elevators. No heels this time, just regular flats and a face that looked 10 years older than it had that morning. "You didn't have to do this," she said. I looked her dead in the eye. "No, you didn't." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, maybe defend herself, maybe cry, maybe beg, but nothing came out. I stepped into the elevator and didn't look back. The doors closed, quiet and final. She came at me with lawyers, with lies, with fake documents and internet poison. She tried to break me, tried to ruin my name, my business, my future. And all she got was a courtroom full of silence and a judgment stamped against her name. I didn't win with rage, I won with receipts. I took a few weeks off, shut down the shop temporarily, told the crew to rest, paid them anyway. After everything that went down, I just needed the world to stop spinning for a minute. I spent most mornings fishing alone at Round Valley, drinking bad gas station coffee and letting the sun hit my face. Afternoons, I'd walk the trails behind my property, where the only sound was gravel under my boots and the wind rustling through trees. The quiet felt strange at first, too still, like something was missing. But over time, I realized what it was. The noise. No more pretending everything was fine while sleeping next to someone planning my downfall. No more wondering what secret was buried in the next bank statement. No more wine-soaked lies and whispered calls behind closed doors. Just silence. Peace. Lisa moved out of the house within the month. Took some clothes, her vanity mirror, and one of the guest room rugs for reasons I'll never understand. She didn't say goodbye, didn't ask for a second chance, just disappeared. I heard through Danny that her fake partner Carver had warrants out in 3 states. Wire fraud, identity theft, falsifying court documents. No one's seen him in weeks. As for Lisa, I imagine she's rebuilding, quietly, maybe desperately, somewhere far from where her name still makes headlines in legal circles. I didn't date, didn't celebrate, didn't reclaim my joy like people kept telling me to do. I just lived. Because sometimes survival is the celebration. I picked the business back up slowly, let the guys ease into projects again, started getting our old clients back one by one. The shop felt different, lighter, like the ghosts had finally left the building. Carla brought me a cake on the first day we reopened. Chocolate with a little card that said, "Still standing." I didn't cry, but I kept the card. There's no trophy for surviving betrayal, no parade for outsmarting someone who swore they loved you. But every morning that I walk into that shop, knowing everything in it is mine and only mine, that's enough. People ask if I regret loving her, if I wish I'd never married her. I don't, because winning isn't about revenge. It's about taking your life back, piece by piece, breath by breath. And sometimes the best ending is no ending at all, just a clean beginning.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.